Let's bring in U.S. political analyst Eric Ham, who's standing by with more coverage of the G7. Eric, always great to see you. Your thoughts on what's at stake here, let's say for Canada and other countries with Donald Trump in attendance?
Yeah, we know Donald Trump can be mercurial, and he is certainly the X factor at this G7 summit. But again, I think what we saw, at least in the opening statements from both of these leaders, suggests that they're off to a good start. And the fact that Donald Trump had on both the U.S.-Canada lapel pin, spoke glowingly, and said that there could be a deal, I think gives hope and optimism, not necessarily that the nations are going to move closer together, but at least they can find a way out of these debilitating tariffs that the president has continued to inflict on the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the pin, so we're going to show it if we can. Donald Trump, in some of the photos we have here, was wearing a lapel pin that did have the Canada-U.S. flag on it, which caught our eyes, certainly, because we haven't seen that kind of thing before. What's your takeaway, Eric, of what that means, or doesn't mean, as the case may be?
Well, we know that Donald Trump always has spoke glowingly of Canada. I guess the good thing about that is, it's why he actually believes Canada should be part of the United States. The bad thing about it is it's also why he believes that Canada should be part of the United States. And I think what we're seeing here is the president now, at least, again, in these opening statements, capitulating and giving a complete 180-degree turn, and his level of hostility towards America's closest ally and trading partner. And maybe this is room not only for the two countries to work together, but also I think it's so important that we have heard a lot of things from the prime minister that I think certainly bodes well for Donald Trump in terms of his agenda. Donald Trump wants to create this Golden Dome missile defense program, which the prime minister suggests they could be open to supporting. In addition to that, the prime minister agreeing to increase GDP spending on national security and defense is also something that the president has been pushing other NATO and G7 countries to do more of. And so I think there is room there for an opportunity to make deals. The question now, of course, is does Donald Trump actually get on board?
We're looking at just footage, as you and I are talking, of, the Prime Minister of Italy talking to the leader of France, the Prime Minister of Japan. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is also there. When we hear about, quote, frank conversations, Eric, I wonder what you make of that. How frank are they actually going to be for these other leaders, where it sometimes feels, nowadays anyway, like you've got 6 countries on one side and then you've got the United States sort of self-excluding from the room?
Yeah, that's right. And it was actually Angela Merkel, the former German chancellor, who would actually speak very frankly to Donald Trump. And we know they had a very frosty, very icy relationship. The president was not very fond of her. And I think the reason is because even during his first term, he was, and the United States did appear more isolated from its traditional allies. And I think we saw her actually speak to that. I think during this summit, we know Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico will be there. I don't think she will speak to Donald Trump in the same manner that perhaps Merkel did, but I think she could actually play that role to actually not necessarily excoriate Donald Trump, but also make clear that the United States is on the outside looking in. And right now, given everything regarding the conflict in the Middle East and, of course, the war in Europe, the United States is going to need its allies and its partners more than ever at this time. And Donald Trump attempting to try to go it along in this approach, I think, is not going to bode well. And also, I think it speaks to the limits of what we've seen so far and Donald Trump's ability to negotiate deals. And I think right now, he's going to need those allies, those partners at this summit in order to move these matters to fruition, if in fact there can be room for agreement.
Our U.S. political analyst Eric Ham joining us from Washington with his take on the G7 summit going on in Alberta today and President Trump on Canadian soil. Good to see you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you.